This is the Vector Optics Continental, a fiber optic daylight bright LPVO with extra low dispersion shot glass, the kind of features you expect to find in more expensive European optics, but at a Chinese price. Is it any good? Let's find out. I won't do a boring unboxing video. Instead, let's just take a look at the contents of the box. This is the Vector Optics Continental. It is a 1:8 power LPVO with a 24mm objective lens and a 30mm tube. And overall, this is a pretty nice premium looking scope. It reminds me of European made scopes, and it does not come with a 2032 coin battery, but it is powered by one. It's easy enough to get, and I put one in there to test out. And interestingly, the rheostat for the second focal plane fiber optic reticle stops at 11.
These go to 11.
Here's the interesting thing. It stops at 11. It doesn't turn all the way back to 1 like many free turning rheostats. It just stops at 11. And I believe they did that so that you don't accidentally go from 11 to 1. And there is an off in between, but there's more than one occasion where I've forgotten which direction to turn it back to 11 from off, and I ended up at 1, which is, this prevents that from happening. Now, our turrets are locking. You pull up to unlock. They are audible and tactile positive with no slop in the clicks. Each of the clicks is 0.1 mrad, and this turret is resettable. It comes with a little tool. You can use a coin to unscrew that, and you can pop off the top. It comes with a replacement turret that only has a 0 on it, so that is useful if you just want to know if your turret has changed from the 0 that you've set. Now, our windage also is locking. Also audible, tactile positive, with no slop in between each of the 0.1 mrad clicks. Again, it's also resettable. And our magnification ring turns very smoothly with a good bit of resistance, but not enough resistance that I'm having difficulty just turning it with my fingers. You could also add a throw lever to that. And our diopter turns very smoothly. And interestingly, has a rubberized rim or mini eye cup here with a little indicator. So that tells you which position or how far you've turned your diopter, and you can bring it back to that location using that indicator. So that's a good feature. So overall, this is a very premium looking scope, but the important thing is how premium does it look through the glass. So we're going to get this mounted up and try that out next. We are looking through the Vector Optics Continental at its highest intensity on the fiber optic reticle of 11, and that is clearly daylight bright. Even when I point this up into a sunlit, cloudless sky, that is quite visible. And as I move this around, I'm also looking for any curvature or distortion around the outer edges, that kind of fisheye effect you get with lower quality LPVOs at 1 power. But this is pretty flat. You can see that in the straightness of that light pole there on the left. But I do see that this car, this teal car, as I bring it in and out of the scope view, looks a little bit smaller than it does in the real world, which says that this view is actually a little bit wider than what you would get with your naked eye. Now, as I lock this off, I'm going to aim at the top of the hill there. That is Mount Davidson, which is about 1,500 yards away. And let's bring this up to halfway in its magnification range to 4 and take a look at that overall image. And that is a clear, sharp, color accurate image that I'm looking at here. And you can compare the color of the sky inside of the scope to that outside of the scope. Now let's bring up our magnification all the way to its maximum of 8. And that is still a clear, sharp image with really very little chromatic aberration. Most of the chromatic aberration you're seeing is in the glass lenses of the camera and not the scope itself. With my naked eye, this looks really good. I can clearly make out the trail marker sign at the top of the hill there. That is that white object just below and to the right of the center crosshairs. And that is about a 3-foot-ish steel sign on a pole, which is a good proxy for an IPSC target at this distance. And we have the scope set at its lowest power of 1 to give our best overall view through the glass. And owing to the design of this range, you can see a lot of straight lines, and you can see from the straightness of those lines, like the roof baffles to the columns, just how flat the view through this optic is at 1 power, and that's what we're looking for. Now, we can't see a lot of detail on that target, so let's bring this up to our maximum magnification of 8 power and take a look at that reference target board now. You can see a lot of detail, pretty good color accuracy, brightness and clarity, and we are roughly lined up to the center of the grid target there. So let's check out our range of adjustments, starting with our elevation. And this is actually pretty good in terms of amount of adjustments. There we are, that's the very top. So that is actually an impressive amount of adjustments considering how low profile these turrets are. Okay, back to our target. Now let's see how far down this goes before we hit a wall. And no, it keeps on going. All right, there we go. Now let's flip this back to 0 on our turret here. All right, now let's check out our windage and see how far right this goes. Actually pretty good. And that is pretty much it. There we go. So that's really 3 target lanes over, so that's actually pretty impressive as well. Now let's get this over to the left side and see if we can get that much. That's 1, 2, almost 3. Okay, so let's get this back. And note that there weren't any vignetting on the outside, so we didn't hit the eye box either. It's got a pretty decent eye box. Alright, let's get this back to 0 on this turret. And pretty much we're right back where we started, but let's do a proper box test here. Let me give this a full rotation on our elevation, a full rotation on our windage, and then full rotation back, and let's get this back to 0 on our elevation, and see if we can get back to 0 on our windage, and there we go. All right. You know what? Let's move up to 50 yards and take a look at those reference targets from that distance. All right, we've moved up to 50 yards now. We're looking at the same reference target board at 8 power, and we can see a lot of detail, more detail here from this distance. You can even make out the texturing of the steel backstop behind the target board, which just tells how bright of an image you're getting through this glass. And looking at the reference target board, you can see the individual lines on the grid target on the top right, and in the color card to the left of that, you can see vibrant color around the ring as well as individual squares in the grids in the grayscale on either side of that. Below that card, we see on the paper target on the bottom left, you can see individual hits on the reactive sticker in the center, but also 2 tiny 22 caliber holes below that reactive sticker target. And looking at the resolution chart on the bottom right, I can make out both horizontal and vertical lines down to element 2 in group -1, which is pretty good for an 8 power optic. If you've been enjoying this video, don't forget to hit that like button right now before this video ends. And if you're not already a subscriber to this channel, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell buttons, which are free by the way. As an extra incentive, Vector Optics is giving away a Continental LPVO and letting me pick the winner on my live stream show. So if you're a subscriber and you've hit that notification bell button, you'll be notified when I post up details about that free contest. So I'd like to thank Vector Optics for giving away one of these Continentals. details, and also for sending one for me to test. This is a spectacular LPVO. The German-made Schott glass is very bright, clear, and sharp. It's the same kind of glass that's used in much more expensive European brands like Zeiss. And I'm not saying this is as good as a Zeiss scope, but in terms of the build quality and the sharpness and the clarity of the glass, this is very impressive. And this has a fiber optic reticle, so it is truly daylight bright. Though the compromise with a fiber optic reticle is that the reticle itself is going to be a little bit thicker to accommodate that fiber optic thread, but it also means it's a second focal plane, which is not a big deal with an LPVO, at least not to me, but maybe it is to you. Let me know in the comments if you really insist on having a first focal plane optic in an LPVO and why you would, or if you don't really care. Either way, let me know. I'd like to know in the comments about that, because first focal plane has become such a popular thing with LPVOs. But if you are interested in this LPVO, you can find more details in my full written review at moondogindustries.com, and I'll include a link to that article in this video's description. So thanks for taking a look at that article, and thanks for taking the time to watch this video. God bless. Moondog out. Hey, I'd like to know what you thought of this video. Leave me a comment or chat with me on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, MeWe, Instagram, or Locals. And if you want to see all of my videos, go to moondogindustries.com.